Human finds a seed in his pocket, and the alien girl claims it's been waiting 10,000 years. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. Ethan Cole felt the quiet hum of Astra 7 underneath his boots, the sort of background vibration you stop noticing after too many night shifts. The air in the maintenance bay tasted faintly metallic, warmed by old conduits that never bothered to cool evenly. He slipped a hand into his jacket, just trying to find a loose bolt he swore he'd pocketed earlier, and his fingers brushed something smooth and warm. He frowned, pulling out a small, oval seed no bigger than a gumdrop, soft light pulsing under its surface like a heartbeat. He'd never seen it before. He didn't even remember touching anything like it. The seed glowed brighter for a moment, as if it knew it had been found. Ethan turned it over in his palm, the warmth soaking into his skin, a quiet thrum traveling up his wrist. He muttered to himself, wondering if someone on the day shift was playing a joke on him. But the seed's glow felt too gentle, too intentional to be some novelty gadget. A soft footstep echoed behind him. He turned and saw Ariel Sithra in the doorway, her skin catching the amber bay lights with a faint silver sheen, her eyes reflecting the seed's glow with eerie precision. She rarely came to the maintenance level. She preferred the research decks above where everything smelled of sterilized air and clean energy. But now her breath seemed to catch the moment she saw his hand. Ethan lifted the seed slightly without thinking, and Ariel stepped forward, her expression tightening with something between awe and worry. The air around them felt different, like the room itself was holding its breath. "Where did you get that?" she whispered, voice steady but softer than he'd ever heard it. Ethan shrugged, the smallest motion of disbelief. "Found it in my pocket. Thought maybe someone slipped it in by mistake." Ariel shook her head once, slowly, her silver blue eyes locked onto the warm pulse in his palm. "No one slipped it to you," she said, almost breathless. "It found you." He waited for her to explain, but she stepped closer, the soft fabric of her uniform brushing the stale air between them. She reached out but stopped just short of touching the seed, as if afraid it might react. "That seed," she said quietly, "has been waiting 10,000 years." Ethan's heartbeat stumbled. He looked at her, then at the warm glow in his hand. "Waiting for what?" he asked. Ariel swallowed, her eyes never leaving the seed. "Not what?" she said. "Who?" And for a long moment, neither of them spoke, the gentle pulse in his hand the only sound in the room, as though the seed itself was answering for her. The seed's glow softened in Ethan's palm, as if sensing the tension in the air. Ariel stood close enough that he could hear the faint, rhythmic pattern of her breathing, steady but tightened at the edges. The maintenance bay hummed around them, lights flickering with their usual uneven pulse, yet everything felt slightly off, as though the room recognized the seed just as much as she did. Ethan closed his fingers around it gently, feeling the warmth spread across his knuckles. "You are serious about this 10,000 years thing," he said quietly. Ariel nodded once, her silver blue eyes reflecting the muted glow as though it lived inside her. "My people have legends," she murmured. "Stories about ancient cycles and seeds that choose their bearers. Most thought they were metaphors. I thought they were metaphors. Until now." Ethan let out a slow breath, trying to find humor but coming up empty. "I repair coolant lines and recalibrate oxygen filters. I am not exactly the chosen one type." Ariel's gaze softened, almost apologetic. "The seed disagrees." She lifted her hand as if about to touch his shoulder, then stopped, lowering it with a careful restraint that said she was aware this conversation was far stranger for him than for her. "Come with me," she said. "There is something you need to see." Ethan followed her through the narrow corridor that wound toward the research deck. The walkway vibrated beneath their steps, the familiar sensation of machinery running at half-life, but still managing to hold the station together. He had walked this hallway hundreds of times, but tonight it felt heavier, the shadows deeper, each echo stretched out like an unanswered question. Ariel unlocked a door with a soft chime, revealing a small observatory room nearly forgotten by the rest of the crew. The ceiling was a curved sheet of transparent alloy, showing a slice of space outside, stars drifting past like slow-moving embers. She dimmed the lights until only the stars and the warm glow in Ethan's hand illuminated the space. "Look," she said quietly. Ethan tilted his head up. At first he saw nothing but the usual scatter of distant lights, until one of the stars shimmered in a gentle rhythmic pattern, almost matching the pulse in the seed. "What is that?" he asked. "A remnant," Ariel whispered. "A signal older than any charted civilization. My people have tracked it for generations, waiting for it to align with one who could activate the cycle. The seed responds only to a specific resonance. It responds to you." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle over him like a soft, invisible blanket. He tried to ignore the pressure building at the back of his mind, a quiet insistence that he had stepped into something far larger than he wanted to understand. "I did not do anything," he said. "You did not need to," Ariel replied gently. "Some things choose on their own timeline." The seed pulsed again, brighter this time, casting a soft halo across her features. For a moment, her expression held something he could not decipher, neither fear nor certainty, but a quiet recognition, as if she was seeing him in a way he did not yet understand. Ethan tightened his grip on the seed, not out of fear, but to ground himself. "So what happens now?" he asked. Ariel looked at the glowing star above them, and then back at him. "Now," she said softly, "the cycle begins." The observatory's dim glow pressed softly against Ethan's senses as he tried to steady his breathing. The seed's warmth had spread through his palm and up his forearm, not painful, not uncomfortable, just present in a way that made him feel aware of every heartbeat. Ariel watched him with a quiet intensity, her eyes reflecting both the stars outside and the soft pulse of the seed. "You need to sit," she said gently, gesturing toward a narrow bench along the curved wall. Ethan did not argue. He lowered himself onto the cool alloy surface, elbows resting loosely on his knees, the seed cupped carefully in his palms. Ariel stepped closer and the observatory lights dimmed a little more, enveloping them in a muted glow. It felt almost like a planetarium on Earth, the kind schoolchildren visited on field trips, except the stars overhead were real and impossibly close. "The cycle will not harm you," Ariel said, as though reading the tension in his shoulders. "It just resonates. It listens. It reflects. For some, it reveals things they did not know they carried." Ethan gave a soft, humorless exhale. "I barely remember what I had for breakfast. I do not think I have much for it to reveal." Ariel's expression softened with what might have been amusement or patience, or both. "You underestimate yourself." She reached toward a panel near the wall and tapped a subtle command. A thin projection shimmered to life above the seed, faint as mist. Ethan blinked, unsure if he was imagining it, but the projection grew gradually clearer, a simple geometric pattern, looping in on itself like an endless knot. "That is the seed recognizing you," Ariel said quietly. "It is aligning, responding." Ethan watched the shifting shape, its lights swaying in rhythm with the seed's pulse. "Is it supposed to do that?" She nodded. "In the legends, the cycle shows the bearer something familiar before it shows something greater, something it remembers." Ethan tilted his head slightly. "The seed remembers?" Ariel hesitated before answering. "In a way, not thoughts, not memories like ours, more like impressions left by every person who carried it. 10,000 years of echoes." Ethan let the words settle in the air between them. It was a strange thought, almost overwhelming, but the seed's warmth steadied him. "So," he asked slowly, "what does it see in me?" Ariel lowered her gaze for a moment, then looked directly at him, her expression unreadable but not cold. "It sees potential." The projection shifted suddenly, the lines bending, spiraling into a shape Ethan recognized instantly. A curve, a slope, a familiar mark on his daily walk. "Is that a KUTIN arc?" he asked. "On deck 12. Ariel nodded. "The seed is showing you something it believes matters. Something connected to you." Ethan frowned. "It is just a damaged pipe. I am scheduled to fix it tomorrow." Ariel's voice dipped softer. "Not everything it shows is literal. Sometimes it uses what you know to guide you toward what you do not." Ethan studied the shifting projection again, the faint glow dancing in the air above his hands. The coolant arc shape slowly dissolved, replaced by a soft bloom of light that resembled a budding plant, delicate and translucent. He felt his chest tighten, even though he could not explain why. Ariel stepped closer, her voice a whisper. "It is trying to speak with you, Ethan." He swallowed, eyes fixed on the drifting shape. "I do not know how to listen." Ariel gave a gentle, steadying breath. "You already are." The soft bloom of light hovering above Ethan's hand swayed, as though moved by a breeze that did not exist. The observatory stayed silent except for the hum of the station passing through its nightly cycle changes, the quiet shift in pressure that engineers like Ethan noticed without thinking. Ariel stood near him, posture steady, her gaze fixed on the projection with a mixture of curiosity and something gentler, almost protective. Ethan felt the seed pulse once more, a delicate rhythm that traveled into his fingertips. "It feels like it wants something," he said softly. Ariel nodded. "It does. But the cycle never demands. It asks. It invites." Ethan let the glow settle into his palms. "Invites me to what?" Instead of answering, Ariel moved toward a small cabinet along the curved wall. She pressed a hidden latch, revealing a compact scanning instrument with smooth lines and a pale blue interface. "I want to check the resonance level," she said. "It will help us understand how strongly the seed is aligning with you." She held the scanner near his hand. It emitted a low chime, its light sweeping gently across the seed. The device vibrated with a soft, steady pattern, as if confirming something it already expected. Ariel studied the readout, her eyebrows lifting slightly. "The resonance is unusually high, higher than any recorded example." Ethan gave a quiet scoff. "I am guessing that is not a good thing." Ariel shook her head slowly. "It is not bad, just rare and unexpected." Ethan leaned back slightly, letting his shoulders rest against the cool alloy wall. "Everything about this has been unexpected." Ariel hesitated as though considering something she was unsure he would accept. Then she said, "There is a part of the cycle I have not told you yet." Ethan's breath caught subtly. "All right. What part?" She looked at the blooming projection drifting above his hands, then at him, her voice steady. "The seed does not just select a bearer. It forms a connection, a bond, not physical, but resonant. It listens to the bearer's intentions, emotions, and choices. It reflects them and grows with them." Ethan stared down at the glowing seed. "So it reacts to me." "Yes," Ariel said. "And the stronger your intentions, the stronger its response." Ethan shifted his hand slightly, watching the projection ripple with the movement. "I do not know what intention it thinks I have. I have just been trying to figure out why it picked me." Ariel stepped closer, careful and gentle, her presence grounding rather than overwhelming. "Ethan, sometimes the cycle chooses someone not because of what they are, but because of what they are capable of becoming." He felt the warmth from the seed increase just enough for him to notice, a subtle acknowledgement or agreement. "Becoming what?" he asked. Ariel paused for a moment, then spoke with quiet certainty. "Someone it trusts." The projection shifted again, the blooming shape dissolving into a soft spiral of light that slowly expanded, a silent gesture that made Ethan's pulse quicken. He could not explain why, but something about the shape felt like a call. A gentle one, but a call nonetheless. Ariel watched the spiral unfold, her voice low. "It is showing you the first step. Whatever it is asking you to follow." Ethan held the seed a little tighter, steadying himself. "Then I guess I have to figure out where that step leads." The seed pulsed in response, soft and sure, as if answering him directly. The spiral of light hovered above Ethan's palms, widening until it felt like the entire observatory breathed in time with it. The seed's warmth spread gently across his skin, steady and calm, almost like a guiding hand. Ariel watched in silence, her expression softened by the star glow drifting across her features. She stepped a little closer, careful not to disturb the projection. "The first step usually reveals itself through environment," she said quietly. "Something connected to you." Ethan nodded, his gaze fixed on the spiral. "The coolant arc was the first thing it showed," he murmured. "Maybe I should look at it." Ariel considered this, then gave a small nod. "If the cycle is directing you toward familiarity, that may be the anchor it is using." Ethan gently closed his hand around the seed. The projection faded instantly, folding back into the warm pulse he had become strangely accustomed to. He stood, the weight of the moment settling into his shoulders, not as pressure, but as purpose. Ariel fell into step beside him as they walked through the quiet corridor. The lights overhead glowed with their usual uneven flicker, and the soft vibration of machinery beneath the floor felt more noticeable now, as though the station itself was listening. When they reached Deck 12, the familiar tang of coolant hung in the air, crisp and metallic. Ethan crouched near the curved pipe, his hand hovering an inch above its surface. The seed pulsed faintly, responding to something he could not see. "It reacts here," he said softly. "It is subtle, but it feels different." Ariel knelt beside him, inspecting the ark with a practiced eye. "There is nothing unusual in the readings," she said after a moment. "But if the seed responds, it means there is more here than we can measure." Ethan shifted slightly, letting his breath settle. The seed warmed again, nudging at his awareness like a quiet whisper. He placed his free hand against the ark gently. The metal hummed under his touch, a vibration he recognized from hundreds of maintenance checks. But this time, the seed's rhythm matched it. Slowly, deliberately, as if acknowledging something hidden beneath the noise. "It is sinking," Ariel whispered. Ethan looked at her. "With the pipe?" "Not with the pipe," she said softly. "With the memory you have of it." Ethan felt a small jolt of understanding. The coolant arc was one of the first things he had repaired when he arrived on Astra 7. He had spent nearly an hour sitting cross-legged on the floor during that repair, listening to the hum of the metal, learning its rhythm. He remembered thinking it sounded almost like a heartbeat. The seed pulsed again, brighter this time, as if confirming the thought. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, letting the old memory surface fully. The quiet, the focus, the calm he had felt in that moment. When he opened his eyes, the seed's glow shifted, casting a faint pattern on the ark's surface. A new geometric shape appeared, etched in light. Ariel inhaled sharply. "That is a cycle mark." Ethan stared at the glowing pattern, feeling the seed warm even more. "What does it mean?" Ariel's voice was barely above a whisper. "It means the cycle is revealing its path, and you are standing exactly where it wants you to begin." The cycle mark glowed softly on the curved surface of the coolant arc, a delicate pattern of light that seemed to shift with every quiet breath Ethan took. The seed pulsed gently in his hand, as if encouraging him to look closer, to listen in a way he had never been asked to listen before. Ariel leaned in, her eyes reflecting the faint glow. "It is reacting to you, not the station," she said. "The cycle uses what is familiar to guide what is new." Ethan traced the air just above the mark, careful not to touch it. The shape reminded him of the blooming form he had seen in the observatory, but this one was more structured, more curved, almost like the outline of something folded inward. "It looks like it wants to open," Ethan murmured. Ariel nodded. "Then maybe it is waiting for you to understand how." Ethan let the thought settle. He shifted his grip on the seed and felt its warmth spread through his fingers, steady and grounding. The coolant arc hummed under his other hand in the way he remembered from that first repair, a vibration that had comforted him during his early days on the station when everything felt unfamiliar. The seed pulsed again, almost in the same rhythm. "It is matching your memory," Ariel said quietly. "The cycle is reflecting what you felt then." Ethan studied the curve of the coolant arc. Back then, he had pressed his hand against it because it made him feel connected to something stable, something dependable, something that made sense. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting that old calm settle into him once more. The hum deepened, and the glow on the arc shifted, slowly unfolding into a new pattern. Ariel inhaled softly. "It is responding to your stillness," she whispered. "That is what the cycle looks for." Ethan opened his eyes. The light on the arc had rearranged into a branching form, delicate, lines spreading outward like roots or pathways. The seed responded instantly, warming further and projecting a faint shimmer that hovered above the new pattern. Ethan tilted his head as the shimmer resolved into a simple outline. A door. Not a real door, but a symbolic one. A threshold. "It wants you to go somewhere," Ariel said. "But we need to figure out where." Ethan glanced around the maintenance corridor. There were no doors here except the standard station hatches. None resembled the shape the cycle was showing him. The projection shifted slightly, a soft line extending downward from the door outline like a marker. Ariel followed the direction of the line and pointed. "There," she said. At the far end of the corridor, nearly hidden behind a tangle of insulated piping, was a small access panel that most crew never bothered with. It led to an old service conduit, rarely used and barely mapped. Ethan had only crawled through it once, months ago, when a sensor malfunction had triggered a false alert. The seed pulsed again in his hand, warm and certain. "It wants me to go in there?" Ethan asked. Ariel nodded slowly. "It is showing you the next step." Ethan approached the narrow panel, feeling the weight of Ariel's steady presence behind him and the quiet certainty of the seed in his hand. The glow from the coolant arc softened behind them as they reached the hatch. Ethan placed his free hand on the panel. The metal vibrated, as if responding to the seed's pulse. Ariel watched him, her voice soft and unwavering. "Whatever the cycle is leading you toward, you are not facing it alone." Ethan drew a quiet breath and opened the hatch, the darkness inside welcoming and waiting, just like the seed's gentle pulse. The service conduit stretched out in front of Ethan like a narrow tunnel carved into the bones of the station, its walls humming with the low, steady rhythm of old machinery. The air felt cooler here, tinged with the scent of metal and filtered dust. Ethan held the seed in his hand, its gentle glow painting soft curves along the conduit walls as he crawled forward. Ariel followed close behind, her movements careful, her presence a steady reassurance in the confined space. The seed pulsed with each inch he moved, almost like it was guiding him, nudging him onward with subtle warmth. "I have never been in this part of the station," Ariel said quietly. "Most crew do not come here," Ethan replied. "It is just an old bypass route. It was supposed to be decommissioned before I arrived." Ariel brushed her hand along the conduit wall. "The cycle often chooses forgotten places. They carry silence. Silence is where ancient things speak." Ethan did not fully understand, but he nodded anyway. Silence did feel heavy here, not empty but layered, as though time itself had settled into the metal. The seed glowed brighter the farther they crawled, lighting their path until Ethan reached a junction where the conduit split into two narrow passages. He hesitated, unsure which one to choose. The seed answered for him, its pulse shifting into a steady rhythm that seemed to lean toward the left passage. Ariel watched the subtle movement. "It is pointing the way," she murmured. Ethan took the left corridor, the space growing tighter for a moment before opening into a small chamber he had never seen on any blueprint. The walls curved out gently, forming an almost spherical cavity. At the center, embedded in the floor, was a circular metal plate with faint markings too worn to decipher. The seed warmed instantly. Ethan knelt beside the plate, holding the seed just above it. The markings brightened, awakening with soft light that flowed outward in delicate lines. Ariel's breath caught. "This is a cycle chamber," she whispered. "Ethan, this should not be here. This is older than the station." Ethan frowned. "Older than the station? How is that possible?" "The cycle has existed long before any structures built by my people or yours," Ariel said. "But for one to appear here means it was waiting. It was placed with purpose." Ethan lowered the seed toward the plate. The light from the markings rose gently, meeting the glow in his hand without resistance. The seed hovered for a moment, weightless, suspended by the resonance that filled the chamber. The soft glow enveloped Ethan's fingers, warm and steady. Ariel watched carefully, her expression shifting with every pulse. "It is testing your intent," she said softly. "It needs to understand you." Ethan felt the warmth travel up his arm again, but this time it carried something else with it. Feeling, memory, threads of moments he had long pushed aside. The first time he left Earth. The isolation of his early days on Astra 7. The quiet hope he had felt when he repaired his first coolant line on this station. The sensation was not invasive, not forceful. It was simply present, like someone listening with absolute patience. Ethan steadied his breath. "I do not know what it wants from me," he admitted quietly. "It wants to know who you are," Ariel replied. The seed pulsed again, gentle and slow, as if agreeing. Ethan closed his eyes, letting the warmth move through him. When he opened them again, the chamber had changed. Light spread across the walls in branching patterns that mirrored the cycle mark on the coolant arc. Ariel looked around with astonishment. "Ethan," she whispered, "the chamber recognizes you." The seed settled back into his hand, glowing brighter than before. And for the first time, Ethan did not feel chosen by accident. He felt chosen with purpose. The chamber's light shifted in slow waves, rising along the curved walls like a quiet breath, as if the entire room had awakened to Ethan's presence. The seed glowed steadily in his palm, warm but no longer searching. It felt almost settled, as though it had found what it had been waiting for. Ariel stepped closer, her eyes reflecting the branching patterns that now covered the walls. "There is something it wants to show you," she said softly. "This is the part of the cycle most bearers never reach." Ethan swallowed lightly, unsure whether he felt excitement or unease. "What happens now?" Ariel lowered her voice. "Now it reveals its memory." The light intensified, but not harshly. It spread outward, filling the small chamber with a soft radiance that blurred the edges of metal and shadow. Ethan felt a subtle pull, like the seed was gently guiding his attention toward the center of the room. The circular plate on the floor brightened again, and a new projection rose slowly from it, thin at first, then widening into a clear image. Ethan expected another geometric symbol, but instead, the projection formed a silhouette. A figure, tall, slender, familiar in a way he could not explain. Ariel inhaled sharply. "That is a keeper," she whispered. "One of the ancient guardians of the cycle." Ethan stared at the figure. Its shape seemed both alien and comforting, woven from the same soft light as the patterns on the wall. The figure lifted an arm, palm open, as though offering something. A seed. Ethan looked down at the one he held. The two glows matched perfectly. "This is the memory of the first bearer," Ariel said. "The seed is showing you its beginning." The projection shifted. The figure moved through a landscape Ethan did not recognize. Vast plains of shimmering stone, a sky filled with drifting lights like floating embers. The figure knelt, placing the seed into a shallow cradle carved in the ground. Ethan felt a gentle echo in his chest, a strange sense of attachment, as though the action resonated with something deep inside him. "Why is it showing me this?" he asked quietly. Ariel studied the projection. "Because the cycle wants you to understand what it is meant to become. The seed is not merely an artifact. It is a living archive, a record of renewal." The projection shifted again, showing the seed in different hands, some humanoid, some not, across places that seemed impossibly distant from each other. Each bearer held it with care. Each felt the same warmth Ethan now felt. 10,000 years of guardianship, passing from world to world, species to species. And now it rested in his hands. Ethan felt the weight of that history settle gently on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as a quiet acknowledgement. "I am not like them," he murmured. "I do not know anything about ancient cycles." Ariel turned to him, her voice steady and calm. "You do not need ancient knowledge. The cycle chose you because of who you are, not what you know. It responds to intent, not expertise." The projection dimmed, and the figure faded, leaving only the soft glow of the chamber around them. Ethan looked down at the seed. Its light pulsed once, slow and steady, like a heartbeat syncing with his own. Ariel watched him with a gentleness he had not seen before. "Ethan," she said, "the memory it shared means something very important. The seed reveals its past only to the bearer it accepts." Ethan absorbed that in silence. The chamber felt warmer now, filled with a sense of belonging he could not explain. The seed pulsed again, brighter this time, casting a soft halo across his fingers. "It trusts you," Ariel whispered. Ethan held the seed closer to his chest, feeling its warmth settle deep inside him. For the first time, he felt something shift, not around him, but within him, as though a door inside his own mind had quietly opened. And he understood that whatever came next, the cycle was no longer a mystery he was chasing. It was a path he was already walking. The chamber's glow softened until it felt like dawn breaking inside the metal walls, gentle and warm, as if the room itself exhaled after holding its breath for centuries. Ethan stood very still, the seed cradled in his hand, its steady pulse matching the calm rhythm settling into his chest. Ariel remained beside him, her posture relaxed in a way he had not seen before, as though the cycle's recognition of Ethan had quieted something long unsettled within her. The branching light patterns on the walls began to draw inward, folding slowly toward the center plate, returning to where they had first awakened. Ethan watched the gentle motion, unsure if he should speak or simply let the moment move through him. The seed warmed again, a subtle gesture that felt like reassurance. It is completing the memory, Ariel said softly. This is the final part of the cycle's revelation. Ethan nodded, even though he did not fully understand. He only knew that whatever the seed wanted from him, it no longer felt like a test. It felt like an invitation. The light gathered at the floor, forming a delicate spiral that rose only a few inches. When Ethan stepped closer, the spiral responded, brightening with each breath he took. Ariel watched him with quiet certainty. The cycle is offering you its purpose, she said. Only you can decide whether to accept it. Ethan did not move at first. He just looked at the spiral, letting the warmth from the seed guide his thoughts. What happens if I say yes? He asked. The cycle becomes part of you, Ariel replied. Not in a physical way. In a resonant way. It follows you, grows with you, and allows you to guide the next phase of its journey. Ethan turned the seed gently in his hand. And if I say no? Ariel hesitated, then answered with honesty. Then the seed will return to dormancy. It will wait another 10,000 years if it must. Ethan let the quiet fill the chamber. He thought about the long nights repairing coolant lines, the isolation he had grown used to, the small routines that had become the shape of his life. And then he thought about the warmth in his hand, the way the seed had listened, the way it had trusted him with its ancient memory. He stepped onto the center plate. The spiral brightened, rising like a soft helix of light that wrapped gently around his legs, then his waist, then his shoulders, never touching him but surrounding him with a warm, shimmering presence. Ariel watched with a stillness that held both awe and peace. Ethan raised the seed. Its glow deepened, shifting from pale gold to a richer, softer tone. A tone that felt like acknowledgement. Acceptance. He whispered, barely audible, I am here. The spiral of light responded instantly, expanding outward in a slow, graceful wave that filled the entire chamber, illuminating every corner with a soft brilliance. Ariel shielded her eyes for a moment, not from discomfort, but from the sheer purity of the glow. When the light faded, Ethan stood in the quiet that followed. The chamber returned to its resting form. The seed no longer pulsed in his hand. Instead, it emitted a steady, settled glow, like a lantern that had finally found its place. Ariel stepped toward him, her voice gentle. It chose you completely. Ethan lowered his hand, looking at the seed with a calm he did not expect to feel. So what does that make me? Ariel met his gaze, her expression soft and certain. The next bearer of the cycle, she said. The one it trusts to guide what comes next. Ethan looked around the chamber one last time. The silence felt different now, not empty, but full of meaning, full of promise. The seed rested warm in his palm, steady and sure, as if it had been waiting for this very moment across 10,000 years. And in the quiet glow reflected in Ariel's eyes, he felt something settle into place inside him. Not destiny, not burden, just purpose. He closed his fingers gently around the seed. For the first time, he felt ready.